And welcome to space and the Neo-Renaissance viewers. Holla, looking at the sun at 193 angstroms. And not a lot of activity going on there. There is a coronal hole there in the southern portion there, just north of the South Pole. And this active region rising here has some magnetic complexity. It is not a sunspot. Here's a close-up of that area. And we're looking at about 12 hours of solar activity as we are extremely late today. It's a holiday, so anyway, here's the 171 angstroms view. Here's the north. We do see some activity popping off in here. There is a little bit of Earth-directed plasma indicated on the LASCO C2. We'll get to it in a moment. We were going to make two videos today, but we decided to just make one as there aren't that many news stories to cover. Again, it is a holiday here in the U.S. Black Friday, when retail stores go from red to black, at least in theory. Here's that LASCO C2 image we're talking about, and there is a little bit of ejecta that you can see. We covered it yesterday. You can see it there on the left side, otherwise known as the east. And you see a little bit of ejecta there in the west, also indicating that some of that plasma component is probably Earth-facing. But it's very diffuse, and, you know, it's not a significant coronal mass ejection, nothing to get concerned about. I'll let that play through again so you can see it. It is pretty faint, and again, you know, it's not going to cause any kind of significant upticks in the KP index or anything like that. Let's talk about robotized paper. 40 lines of evidence supporting a liquid metallic hydrogen sun. Let's talk about solar collapse. These ideas about stars collapsing under their own gravity and internal gas pressure creating an apparent surface, which isn't a real surface, via this nuclear dynamo inside of a star. Anyway, solar collapse. Let me read a clip. Eventually, the concept that the sun was supported by radiation pressure was abandoned. Radiation pressure became primarily reserved for the supermassive stars. Solar collapse was prevented using electron gas pressure, with radiation pressure contributing little to the solution. Now, keep in mind, folks, if stars are made of condensed matter, they cannot collapse. That would be thermodynamically impossible. And in order for a black hole to exist, that thing would have to do work upon itself. And we don't believe this is the way stars work. So once again, I would state, please read the paper. 40 lines of evidence for condensed matter. The sun on trial. Liquid metallic hydrogen as a solar building block. It explains pretty much everything as to why the sun behaves the way it does. And this is part of the reason why we don't study exoplanets much on this channel at all. It's because since mainstream astronomy does not understand the way the sun works, why would we even consider? I mean, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do the deep oceans of the Earth. So this is a similar situation, as the sun's mechanisms for its existence are essentially the Rosetta Stone for the rest of astrophysics and cosmology. Let's play a clip from a Robitaille video. And this one is about gravitational thermodynamics. I'm just going to play a teaser.
To do, rather than state, okay, Houston, we've had a problem here, they ignored the warning signs and tried to work their way around them by inventing gravitational thermodynamics. They tried to argue that entropy need not be extensive. And
now this is a huge problem in astrophysics and cosmology here. The whole thermodynamics issues, and we're not going to get super in depth into it, but we did leave links to the Sky Scholar video, Gravitational Thermodynamics, Is It Science? Let's go back to the sun. If you weren't aware that this is the way the sun looks from the North Pole, please become aware. Now, this image was taken by the Proba 2 mission, which we've also linked, as well as to this GIF, actually. But the Proba 2 mission, And they do send raw data if you want to check that out. This is the swap data. There's also the Lyra data you can access from this page. But the recommended way to view the data is on HelioViewer. If you've never checked out helioviewer.org, I believe this is the one Ben Davidson uses to make the Suspicious Observers videos. And what's cool about this is you can mess with the opacity or the opacity, and you can make the 304 angstroms turn into a 171 angstroms view. And you can even mess with the magnetic camera. You can fade from 171 angstroms to the magnetic view. For instance, put up the magnetogram. So that's pretty cool. It'll show you what's going on. You'll be able to get this great visual analysis here at helioviewer.org. Now, I've known about this. We just don't usually cover it on the channel because we prefer to show animated images. And of course, you got the lovely Earth scale as well, helioviewer.org. Go back to solar data. The X-ray flux remains completely flatlined. And the real-time solar wind is showing us long load times. That's okay. We'll wait. And there we have it. Phi angle's been shifting all over the place. And this could be a magnetic connection to that coronal hole. It's a little bit high. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this drop down to 180 degrees, as that southern coronal hole is just getting into the Earth-facing zone now. We don't see any significant ongoing long-term connections there. So that wouldn't be too much of a surprise, as solar activity is very low. And so we're looking at a solar wind density of 3.1 protons per cubic centimeter and a solar wind speed of 348 kilometers a second. I think we got Tony Montana yelling at somebody in the background here. And there's the data from ACE. Fully updated for your viewing pleasure. By the way, if you'd like to listen to that track I just played in full volume, check out soundcloud.com/Daniel-Nigro-2. And that's the older and weirder music selections, folks. That's called Wind Chime Madness. That song was literally created by a wind chime. I asked it to make a song, and it did. Here's the magnetohydrodynamics of geospace. Looking at 4 hours of magnetosphere movies here, and we're seeing pretty weak magnetosphere. Just let that play through before we look at the ground magnetic perturbations as we do daily. Primary pressure is in the magnetotail, as we typically see when it's very low solar wind. And here's the changes in the Earth's B field. Evidence of the South Pole creeping into the southern Indian Ocean still present. Main perturbations are over the Canadian North Pole as opposed to the Siberian one, and that is typical that we've been watching for months, and indeed about over a year actually on this channel. If you want to see the older stuff, check out older videos. We show you 4 hours per day. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is back down to 70. It had gone up to 72, dropped back down to 70. Solar minimum conditions persist. Again, 0 sunspots. And the GOES magnetometer is looking fairly smooth here, as we have forecasted by looking at stuff like the Gong 2 data. Now, this data is an hour and 48 minutes old, showing us a solid stance in the South Pole-oriented portion of the current sheet, here shown in red. Links to that are also below the video if you want to go look at it yourself. Or if you'd prefer to look at the line of sight coronal hole plot, it's not bad. Check it out. There's a line of sight coronal hole plot. And this does help to show the intensity of the solar polar fields. In any case, that is linked below the video also. So check that out if you like. KP index back off of the floor to 1. And it was at 0 when we made the video, so we decided to cover cosmic rays. Now, Amputations has shown a precipitous uptick over the past week, about 10 days. And actually the highest levels in the past 30 days shown there at Amputations, right there at 2.5% over the average. Barentsburg not really showing the same trend, although a general uptrend over that same period, just not quite as big of an uptrend. And here's the Athens neutron monitor, 30 days of data there, not showing a similar trend whatsoever. Next, Mexico City, pretty flat there, at least over the past 30 days. There's Moscow, which is showing an uptrend over the past 2 weeks. And here's Oulu and DOMC and DOMB Antarctica. First, Oulu, Finland. Quite flat over the past 30 days. DOMC Antarctica, fairly flat too. A little bit of missing data. And DOMB, lots of missing data. There was a pretty big spike on the 5th of November at DOMB. We did leave links to the Cosmic Ray Stations page, and it took us months to figure out what links to cover in the space weather videos. We're not stagnating, folks. We cover these things in this order by design. And just as a side note, the world is full of magnetometers, and there are links to that also on this page. You may want to check that out. It's all available at this great page, Network of Cosmic Ray Stations. Next, we'll look at the GOES electron flux, which is pretty smooth and just at moderate normal levels. And the data for the relativistic electrons has not been updated in a few days, so let's just ignore it. Here's 6 hours of the ionosphere, and we are continuing to see charge-up anomalies over the South Pacific. You'll notice this area southeast of Hawaii, showing some charge-up anomalies there at the nighttime portion. As well as sudden discharge events. So that is the oddity that we've been showing you for about 10 days, I think, on this channel. And if you want to see the older videos of it, go back and watch one of our older videos. Somewhere about 10 to 15 minutes in, we'll probably be covering it. We don't see any earthquakes above a 6 magnitude. Let's just scroll up the list for your viewing pleasure. Please leave a comment if you're viewing the video from Guam. I don't think we have any Guam viewers, although perhaps you're viewing it on a military base, who knows? Again, no quakes above a 6 magnitude. Here we do see a quake in Washington at negative 2.1 kilometers depth. In other words, that quake occurred 2,000 meters above sea level. Is it a volcano in Washington? Please leave a comment if you think a volcano is going to erupt in Washington. Let's just take a look at the map. There's a location of that one. It's directly under Mount Rainier's Peak. How do you like them apples? Wasn't expecting to see that. And I'll just scroll up the rest of the list here if I can get things to work. There we go. No quakes over 6 magnitude. Here's where pressure is located. Actually, that's not now. Something's wrong here. All right, and we've refreshed that. We see massive pressure gradients over the U.S. We'll just let that advance about 24 hours. Welcome to space, folks. All your weather comes from space. Please leave a comment if you like my plasma hat. It's lined with magnetite mesh, and it directs Birkeland currents into and out of my brain, so I can transmit my thoughts into the universe and freak out extraterrestrials. All right, so volcano rundown. It's got some new ones on the list. Klyuchevskoye is back to erupting. producing an 18,000-foot ash plume. Mount Aso, flight level 6,000, Sakurajima. Still exploding. By the way, if you viewed our video yesterday, we showed an insane green-colored plasma discharge coming out of Sakurajima. So watch yesterday's video at youtube.com/smashomash, or better yet, bitshoot.com/smashomash. You can even go to minds.com, and it's all linked there also. Suwanose Jima. Suwanose Jima. There we go. In the Ryukyu Islands. Some great names that I have trouble pronouncing. Something going on there. Small ash plumes rose up above the summit. So that's back on the list, back to erupting in some fashion. Mount Ibu, flight level 7,000 there. It looks like Sanjiang Api remains on the list, exploding. Flight level 11,000. Dakono still exploding. Flight level 7,000. Popocatépetl, 21,000 foot ash plume there. Sangay, some new volcanic emissions moving west. That's volcanic ash, by the way. Revenador exploding. Flight level 16,000. Sabancaya exploding. Flight level 24,000. And not sure about Nevada State Chilean. Let's just say don't do the Fosbury flop over it. Please leave a comment if you've competed in the high jump. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. There's where it'll be in 1 week. And I'll take this moment to say, Milky Way Galaxy team for the win. I made some homemade chocolate last night, folks. And I would have to redo the one batch because I didn't put enough sugar in it. But the other batch came out pretty good. It's somewhere in between chocolate and fudge. Here's where stuff is above my head. I like to use in-the-sky.org for that. And check it out. Deneb just rose. Please leave a comment if you're in the Northern Hemisphere and you've been hit in the head by protons from Deneb, one of the weirdest objects in the Milky Way galaxy that I'm aware of. And welcome to the That Is Censored and That Is a Sinkhole, the part where we encourage our viewers to understand the distinction between their and a hole in the ground. Now, please don't have your amputated because you've had injections to give yourself a bigger booty. Now, this could be the case for model Courtney Barnes. Now, she started out things as a stripper and didn't make any money. And her colleagues told her that she needed a bigger booty, so she got some illegal injections. Now, in her case, it doesn't look like a lot of the injections went into the butt muscle, which is a good thing. Her entire butt probably will not need to be amputated. Please do not get a fake butt. It's a really, really stupid idea. I mean, if you thought fake boobs were stupid and idiotic as an elective surgery, I mean, seriously, anybody getting a surgery that's not necessary has got to be out of their minds. And don't let some random person take thousands and thousands of your dollars to do things that may kill you. Speaking of things that may kill you, blood loss is one of the examples. Somebody came up with an idea of using magnetic fields to save trauma patients. Now, one of the problems associated with this is that they've got to inject a bunch of iron into your bloodstream, which, I mean, iron toxicity is at very low levels. You can't get a lot of iron in your blood. It will kill you and cause all kinds of horrible things. But those things aren't quite as horrible as bleeding to death if you're stuck in a car, for instance. So anyway, I'm not so sure this is going to work out because he's not sure how to take the iron back out of the blood vessels. And indeed, it may not work in a major blood vessel. But basically what you do here is you make the blood into ferrofluid, and then you put a magnet there by the wound, and it'll like cause the iron to chain together and prevent some blood loss. I'm not so sure about this one. It's the same technology used in automotive shocks, the ones that change the compression damping and all that stuff as a result of road vibration. And you do that by having ferrofluid in there, and then you introduce an electromagnetic field, and that will, stiffen the shocks or make the shocks less stiff. Let's talk about New Jersey. Now, New Jersey's only a bike ride away from me. However, as New Jersey being a state that I can't stand, I don't go there practically ever. Turns out 44% of residents are planning to leave the state, according to a survey. Why? Because it's a communist nightmare and the laws are ridiculous. The taxes are incredibly high. It's got the highest property taxes in the whole country. So personally now, I've got some family living in New Jersey, and I don't think they like it either. Anyway, that's a bike ride that I tend to not take, as I boycott places that aren't governed well, such as Philadelphia, governed by scumbag leftist Jim Kenney, who's made it into a sanctuary city and done all kinds of other idiotic things to ruin our beloved city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Let's talk about the local stars. We've been doing a daily star study on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Barnard Star. I apologize if that bothered you. If you have red-green 3D glasses, it'll be delightful. I should get a set, I suppose. I don't know. I really don't care. Anyway, today's star is Barnard Star. That's right, named for American cosmologist something or other Barnard. Some guy called Barnard. Now, he wasn't actually the discoverer of it. E. Barnard. He didn't actually discover the star. It was on university plates at Harvard in 1888 and 90. But due to the measurements of its proper motion, and it has a very high proper motion, this is not a star visible with the naked eye, by the way. It's a dim red dwarf. It is a variable star, like all stars in the universe. It has flared. There was a flare measured at some point. If you want to read all about Barnard's star, check it out. One of the reasons why it's an interesting star is because it's easy to view for people, in either hemisphere, due to its location near to the celestial equator. Now, if you want to know what the celestial equator is, we left a link to that also below the video. You can read all about it. Barnard Star. Barnard Star even had proposed missions to try to reach Barnard Star. There was a mission set up that never really went through, but called Project Daedalus. And between 1973 and 1978, it suggested rapid unmanned travel to another star system was possible using existing or near-future technology. And it was targeted because it was believed to have planets. Anyway, if you want to read more about Barnard's star, here's the planet. It's considered a super-Earth, believed to be an exoplanet made of ice, having a large amount of ice on it there, I guess water ice. I don't know that much about it, and again, the reason I don't study exoplanets very much is because I want to understand the sun first. And here's another image about Barnard's star. It's the fourth closest individual star after the trinary system in Alpha Centauri, located at about 6 light years distance. Now, speaking of stars, let's go out a little farther, a lot farther, in fact, to Galaxy Zoo. Zooniverse.org's Galaxy Zoo. We need human beings to classify galaxies, so check that out. Links to that also below the video. There's only a few million to go, folks, so get on it. Go classify some galaxies. People have been published in scientific papers just simply because of classifying galaxies on galaxyzoo.org. And I've done a few hundred myself. I know a lot of our viewers have been classifying a ton of galaxies. Cheers to that. Zooniverse.org, the largest citizen science project in the world. And according to lightningmaps.org, there's where the lightning's striking. Looks like there was a lot of lightning over the Pacific Ocean there overnight. And I just wanted to go to Tropical Tidbits real quick to show you how the snow forecast keeps changing. We've been looking at December 2nd, as it's going to be a huge travel day. You know, the following Thanksgiving weekend, Travel Monday is always a huge travel day, as well as Sunday. And our forecast keeps changing, and now we've gotten back to several inches of snow here, possibly maybe 8 inches or so. Very close to where I'm located. This forecast keeps changing drastically day by day. It looks like the western snow lightened up in this forecast, so we've linked to that also. That's the total snowfall, assuming a 10-to-1 snow-to-liquid ratio. I just wanted to make a note here about the ridiculous articles on Science Alert. Now, Science Alert, this is a science publication that we read daily, and this is one of the global warming alarmist publications. Check out the headlines. Is climate change making you anxious? Here are 5 coming tips from psychologists. Dear 2019, a letter from the future about how, thanks for not destroying mankind by not producing so much CO2 and not making the planet so hot that it's cold and whatever other it's seriously, it's crazy. It's almost as global warming alarmist as phys.org's Earth section. I just wanted to state that. And let's talk about the Northern Hemisphere. Now, it's not even December yet. And does it look a little bit snowy to you folks? Now this hasn't even been updated. This is actually from Wednesday, November 27th. The Rutgers snow and ice cover, ice shown in yellow, snow cover shown in white. Does that look hot to you folks? It's not looking too hot. And 3 years in a row of late springs and early winters are enough to move the climate needle for real. For all of those global warming alarmists that are saying, don't mix up climate with weather, 3 years of weather equals climate. And the beef that we have with the idea that man-made CO2 is changing the Earth's temperature is that man doesn't have the capability to change the Earth's climate. Yes, pollution is real. Climate change is real. It's not caused by mankind. The incredible arrogance of mankind to think that it's able to change the Earth's thermodynamic properties is just ridiculous. Anybody who knows about wattage laughs in the face of man-made climate change. If you called it anything besides man-made climate change, it could be real, but changing the thermodynamic capacities of the planet is not a thing capable in mankind's technological toolbox at this juncture in human history. Here's a value-added service for you, the U.S. Doppler radar, and Utah is just getting hammered. There must be ice falling all around the Great Salt Lake. What a freaking weird area. I like the way there's snow just north and just south of it, while rain falls on the Great Salt Lake. Very strange. Let's take a look. By the way, your weather is largely governed by electromagnetic processes. And please leave a comment if you think that the Great Salt Lake was formed. Please leave a comment if you think the salt in the lake is forming the weather, or if you think the weather has formed the lake. Now, there's a lot of chicken and egg arguments in science, and let's don't get into it. Please leave a comment if you've moved to Utah because you have 18 wives. Or if you're planning to move to Utah because you want 18 wives. Anyway, there's the water vapor situation. Looking pretty atmospheric rivery. What say you? Here's a full-size U.S. water vapor map. And there is just a major, that's more like an atmospheric tidal pool. Man, it's not really an atmospheric river because it is stagnating as the jet stream's creating a low pressure zone across the entire country there. Well, it will be creating one across the entire country. And last but not least, I wanted to take a look at these convergence anomalies. Not really anomalies, but convergence zones here near the U.S.-Mexico border. Check out the parallel lines, folks. Can you say Hall currents? Anyway, those zones right there are massive pressure gradients. So don't be surprised when you see weird weather. If you're in those areas where it's dry, go look at the clouds. They're going to be looking a little on the odd side, let's say. Please leave a comment if you've got a photograph of lenticular clouds or fall streak holes. We're always interested in meteorological phenomena. Here's the jet stream behavior in that same area. And you can see extreme meridional jet stream flow. In fact, part of the jet stream is moving east in some of these areas. Part of the jet stream is moving west in some areas. Now, normally the jet stream moves west to east. If you see it moving the other way, well, let's just say that's weird. Here's a zoomed out view of the Western world. And we see extreme bends in the jet stream, as we've been seeing for a couple of years during this solar minimum. Here's the eastern jets, looking a little bit more normal, although some big bends in the south. Thanks to our patrons for being the actual financial supporters of the channel. Please consider becoming a patron, as the channel is still in its ground phase and in the process of growing in various different ways, moving in various different directions behind the scenes. Don't think we're stagnating, folks. There is a lot of stuff going on not evident in these videos. So again, thanks to our patrons. Please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smashomash. Thanks to the Smash team and everybody viewing and leaving comments, etc. Stay tuned for a bonus feature. And it's taken forever to load. It's the colorized magnetogram here on the SDO. And I wanted to just give you a quick image here of the magnetic polarities associated with that plage, that little active region there. It's very close to the equator, so it's no surprise that that is a cycle 24 plage. And you can see the leading polarity is South Pole, trailing polarity is North Pole, and it's north of the equator, indicating that it is cycle 24. We are out. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Please don't forget to press like and subscribe on YouTube or BitChute or Minds or wherever you're watching. Please subscribe, etc., yada, yada, yada. Consider becoming a patron. Stare at the sun. Don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. May that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from thy veins.